Okay. Hey. What is your current occupation?
I am a vocational teacher for early childhood.
Okay.
Well, I guess I also teach preschool too. So,
yeah.
so both.
What is a brief overview of your experience in working with children?
Brief. Well, I taught kindergarten for 6 years. And then for the past 2 years, I have been doing vocational where I've worked with grades K through 12, like seniors. So anywhere from kindergarten all the way up to being a senior in high school. So I've worked with a lot of different age groups.
Okay. When you hear the word play or children playing, what do you picture?
Playing with lots of different toys that would help them create and imagine different avenues in taking from their experience.
Okay. So I'll do my research. There was like play as in like dramatic play in the classroom, and then there was also like outdoor play. So I was just trying to, because like whenever I thought of it, I thought of like dramatic play or like playing inside
Yeah,
the
that's
classroom.
kind of that's what came to my mind, like Toy Story, like at the
Yeah.
preschool room.
Okay. And I know this may be hard to recall, but what do you remember about play in your early childhood classrooms? Like specifically like in preschool, they have a lot of play, but like specifically in kindergarten and like grades where you're in like the elementary school, like do you remember like playing?
When I was in elementary school, yeah. When I was in kindergarten, I actually remember almost everything being play-based. We went outside and had like multiple recesses a day outside. When we were inside, everything that we were doing was kind of play-based or dramatic play, what you were talking about. In preschool, I don't remember doing anything but playing. I mean, that's kind of hard for me to remember, but like all I remember is like the inside play equipment, and I don't really remember working on anything other than that.
Yeah. So when I was in when I was in kindergarten, I remember having like the classroom was split, and like the majority of the classroom was like for playing. Like I remember specifically playing like with dramatic play all the time. And then there was like a little section over here where we had tables and we did like some work, but most of it was play. And then like whenever I was in your class, I went into a kindergarten classroom and there were no toys, and there was like it was a very small classroom, and it was all like tables and academics, and there was no playing. Like the most play I saw was like, and like whenever they came in the morning, like they put their things away, and then they had like sensory bins, but they were still like academic based. Like they weren't play based. It was like you're making shapes by sticking pipe cleaners and straws and making shapes and like stuff like that. So it was all basically like academic based. So just like trying to get a like timeline of how like basically it used to always be play, or in a big part used to be play, and now it's like academics. And
I will say in my kindergarten classroom, I had more play than that. But the only reason I did was because we used a positive reinforcement system that gave them 20 minutes a day of free choice time. So we as teachers could kind of do what we want them with that. And some of those choices that they got to select were based on academics, but I always had a toy chest of toys. And that's where all my kids always wanted to go, or like blocks with the toys so they could build something, and then the toys could be in that setting that they built. So there was at least 20 minutes a day my students were getting that, besides the 20 to 30 minutes they went outside for recess. But I would agree with you and say that most classrooms don't offer that. And again, that was just because my school was in a whole school setting of positive reinforcement. Yeah. That was not something built into our curriculum other than for that purpose. So
I'm kind of just answering my questions for later, but it's okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, maybe not. I don't know where it went. Maybe I didn't put it on here. Okay, but one of my questions was, in your teaching, did you find it hard to incorporate play time because of and why did you find that hard?
I didn't necessarily find it hard because I'm kind of a playful person. If I'm not having fun in my job, then why would my kids be having, if I'm not having fun, they're not having fun. So, I mean, anytime we did academics, I tried to put a song in there or put motions in there, or at least to where they're doing something other than just sitting. I know that's not exactly the play that you're talking about, but it's more fun than them just sitting there. But yeah, if you're talking about true playtime, besides the first 6 weeks of school when you're trying to get those manners in place and things to get them ready for school. Like I pulled out Play-Doh a little bit more then, and we pulled out toys a little bit more then, and blocks and things because they weren't ready for, academics yet. But yeah, other than that, and that, those 20 minutes that were geared towards the positive reinforcement, there wasn't a lot of playtime. I mean, but I was also station based. So my kids would go to stations, and at the station there was, normally something hands-on they could do. That was kind of play-based sometimes, but not always, because it had to be, geared towards them learning something.
So why do you think it's hard for people that don't have like positive reinforcement incorporated in their schools? Why do you think it's hard for them to like find ways to like incorporate play?
I think that the standards are part of the problem. When you went to school, and especially when I went to school, there was not standards for teachers. So they went in and they kind of just taught what they wanted, taught what they knew, did crafts, things like that. And now there's the standards that are held over your head. And then there's also the testing that continues to build upon, it doesn't happen in kindergarten so much, but it's there. And I think because of those standards, when I go to do my job, those standards were what I based everything off of. So, in the standards, it doesn't say, and for kindergartners and play-based, you can incorporate it this way. Yeah. It just says, learn to count 1 to 20. And it doesn't say, well, like here's this activity you could do that would incorporate play-based learning. So I think that if you're going to be a teacher that wants to incorporate that, you're going to have to go above and beyond the standards and find resources outside of that to incorporate with the standard, which is hard to do.
Yes. And do you think, I think you basically already answered this, but
it's all right.
Do you think that play is beneficial, other than if you didn't have any research to back it up, could you look at a child playing and like decipher like how it benefits them?
Yes.
Like in like their development, not just like, oh, it's fun, they're enjoying it, like that's good, but like their development.
So even from today, because I went from kindergarten to not teaching any really early childhood, now I have preschoolers. So today with my preschoolers even, it's Thursday, so it's the third day of their preschool. They're kind of sick of doing the academics that I'm trying to gear them towards. We do have play, but again, I'm trying to prepare them for the kindergarten of today, which is crazy. But they were coloring even, and coloring is not even fun for them anymore because we're doing all these other academics thrown at them. So coloring is not even a fun activity anymore. Like that's not playing, So they were coloring, and I was trying to have them color inside the lines the best they could, and that's kind of what they were working on. And they were just like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, okay, like you did your best, like we can stop them and move on to playing. So I went outside and played, and like the joy on their face and like the connections they make when they're in charge of what they're doing is so much more beneficial than when I'm setting their time and what to do. Like when they go outside and they play, and like, yes, it's fun, so they're happier, but the connections they're making about like, one of my little boys lives in a cop car, and he's like making the siren, and he's taking his real life connections and putting them into what he's doing. So those connections are there, you just have to look for them. So those light bulbs hit almost more than, me looking at them and saying, well, you have to use this color to color inside this line. Or like, can you count, we were doing a Halloween book today. Can you count these ghosts and tell me how many ghosts there are? Well, yeah, I can do that. Okay, but how is that, relatable or fun, or you're not making those connections on your own? Mm-hmm. So.
All right, and so those are all my questions, but I read an article and I wanted to see how you felt about it, because it's not like, there isn't any human research on it, but it really like sparked my interest because, I'm going for both early childhood and special education. And the like title of the article read like, can play like diminish the amount of like students diagnosed with ADHD? And
that's interesting.
It was basically, okay, so like I don't remember the exact details, but basically it was saying that children's natural brain instinct whenever they're young is to play, and they want to get up and they want to engage, and having them at such an early age sit and try to do something, and like early interventions, which are good, like they're really helpful, like for students that like really like get diagnosed with ADHD and like can truly have it. But like the fact that there's so many, it's growing like exponentially, like how many children are like diagnosed with it, and the like the correlation, it's not the like really the cause, because there's like genetics and stuff, but it says like there's a correlation by having them sit and then giving them ADHD medicine or psychostimulants, and they actually like turn off the brain's instinct to play. And so, like, even they take them and then they, like, sit in the classroom, but then they go home and they don't engage the way normal kids would engage in play because of the medicine that they're given to sit in the classroom. And one thing that, like, I just, like, really was interested about this.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And one thing was saying that ADHD has gone, like, yes, it has genetic research and it has, like, research to back up why it happens, but it's gone from, like, a genetic illness to a cultural illness to where, like, because of society's pressures that it's putting on its children, it's causing this to go up, and it's not all genetics anymore. Like, it's the environment. They use that research to prove it, but there are things that could make the numbers go down. And I just thought it was really cool, and I want to see what you thought about that. Like, if that's like you're crazy, or like if it's like, okay, I see where that like.
No, I don't think that's crazy, because even today, like, we have a specific child that she has a lot of energy. She's 3. So, you know, and even my students, my high schoolers, are already looking at her with me having no conversation with them about this at all and saying, oh, she looks like she has ADHD. It is a cultural thing. Like, it is becoming such a, like, if you have too much energy, you have ADHD, you know? And so I always try to look at them and I say, like, no, she's just being a typical 3-year-old. Like, yes, it's discouraging. Yes, it's hard, but like, she's just, this is her first time at school. Like, she's just a 3-year-old. Like, she wants to get up, she wants to play. Like, that's okay, you know? Like, we'll teach her the best that we can, but like, I'm not gonna make her, you know, I'm not gonna get mad at her when she doesn't want to sit down. Like, she's 3, you know? So no, I don't think that's crazy at all. I absolutely think that the environment could be a huge issue. And I do think that what we're asking young students to do is too much. If you're a kindergarten teacher and you're not doing some type of station-based classroom, you're really doing a disservice to your kids, because they're not getting up every 10 minutes and moving and getting to change what they're doing and getting to show you a strength. If you're just focusing on that one thing that they're not good at, they're starting to hate school earlier. They're starting to not want to read books. They're starting to not even want to, you know, go out and play anymore because it's getting taken away from them. So yeah, I absolutely think that could be a possibility. That's really interesting.
I thought it was really cool. And I know you, like, the way you have, like, told how I've, like, learned about how you did your classroom and stuff, I thought that you, like, didn't press the standards on them so much. You, like, made it fun by the way you, like, told us about activities. But, like, I know there are teachers out there that don't do things the way you do, that don't care the way you do, and don't, like, you know. So I just know that that's, like, and that's why I was, like, I want to hear what you have to say, because you're always, like, engaging and stuff, from what I've heard. So
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I think that there are teachers out there that think the classroom has to be done a certain way, and I think that teachers are very good at what they do and they have a heart for it, but I think that we also are sometimes our worst enemy, because we want things to be done a certain way. And once you realize that, like, you can have a plan for the day, but it may not go that way, or once you have a plan and, like, you have that class that's just different, you're gonna have to change what you're doing to make it work for them. Like, it's not about you. Like, I think the problem is, too, all of this connecting is that we get evaluated. So because we get evaluated, you want to follow those standards, you want to do the right thing. But, like, all I'm going to say is that I know all principals are different, but if you're at the right school with the right principal, they're going to support you in what you're choosing to do. So if you're choosing to be play-based, they should support you in that. And if they don't, then you shouldn't be there. So, but yeah, I agree.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For answering all my questions.
You're welcome.
All right.